What's up, everybody? I am going to discuss the time that I met Tom Brady, the one and only, the GOAT when it comes to football, and it was actually about a month ago at the 4th annual Vault Conference hosted by Patrick Bet-David, and I'm going to share with you 5 tips that I learned from meeting Tom Brady. All in all, the experience was very interesting. It wasn't what I expected. You know, everyone knows who Tom Brady is because of the 7 rings, championships, everything that he's done. But I was actually super intrigued and impressed and almost surprised by the way he communicated and some things that he shared during that interview. And if you haven't watched the interview, you can go onto YouTube, Patrick Bet-David and Tom Brady at the Vault Conference. And if you didn't attend the Vault Conference, we missed you. It was a fantastic event, 3,000 entrepreneurs from all across the globe. And hopefully you'll be with us next year. And if you have interest in learning more about it, DM me or comment Vault below. But let's get into this. Number 1 is humble leadership. Why do I say that? Because when you think of someone who's won 7 championship rings, who is referred to as the GOAT in their industry, you wouldn't presume that they're super humble. And so when he was speaking and the way he was speaking about his team, he was always giving the credit back to everyone else, never really taking it for himself. I was super impressed with how humble Tom Brady was. There was a point in the interview where Patrick was saying, he's like, oh, and he's reading all his stats, the championships, the Super Bowl rings, the yards that he threw when he was a quarterback. And literally after Patrick read all of these statistics for him, he's like, you know what? Out of everything that you've said to me and all the statistics that you read, the one that stood out to me and the one that I really care about is that you said my team loves me. Because anyone that Patrick would speak to about Tom Brady that was on the team, they always had really great things to say about him, not just as a player, but as a teammate, as a friend, as a leader. And so when he said that, I'm like, wow. It wasn't his stats that impressed him or that wanted him, that really intrigued him during the conversation. It was the attention or the gratification he got from his team really caring about him and speaking highly of him. And that really stood out to me because it goes to show, if you want to be the best leader, if you want to be the GOAT in your industry, it really comes with a level of humility where you're willing to give praise and you're willing to give a lot of the acclamations to others on your team and not just taking it for yourself. And when it comes to leadership, the number one thing about a leader is their ability to build other leaders. Because if you're a leader but you don't build other leaders or you're not investing in other people, are you really a leader? Because when it comes to leadership, whether it's in a team setting like sporting events, or when it's in companies, or when it's in countries, communities, the number one thing that you can look to in a successful or an unsuccessful team, company, community is leadership. And we know when you have the ability to develop other leaders, where you're a leader, but you also develop other leaders who develop other leaders, that is exponential. And it made me think of Patrick. You know, I work at Bet-David Consulting here at Valuetainment, and he's like, you know how I know Valuetainment will be $1 trillion company? And we're like, why? $1 trillion company? Because we have the formula to develop other leaders. And when he said that, it's so true. And because leadership development is an art, but it's also essential if you want exponential growth. And if you want to be someone like Tom Brady, you have to be a leader. You have to invest in your people where they actually not only respect you, but they have a level of care for you and love for you. And that's how you become the greatest in your industry. And so I was super impressed by his leadership and his ability to do so. And if you're someone who's looking to develop your leadership skills, or people within your organization, you're an entrepreneur, let me know, DM me leader or comment below leader, because I would love to learn more about you and your business and what we do for leadership development here at Bet-David Consulting. Because if you're an entrepreneur, you're a leader. And so that was number 1. It was how humble he was, super impressed, really enjoyed his perspective on all of that, and honestly surprised, to be honest. Number 2 was culture warrior. He put a lot of emphasis on the importance of having people on the team that drive the culture. So if he's not there, or if it's in other areas where it's not always the game or it's the locker room, they still align and fight for the culture. And what do we mean by culture? Culture is not just when you're in the same environment. It's how you speak, it's how you act, it's how you represent yourself. Because if you work for a team, if you work for an organization, if you're a part of a community or a country, you are a reflection of that culture. And so he mentioned how important it was to have a core group that fought and protected the culture. And so if people came in that weren't aligned, they weren't going to last long, because you had enough people that believed in the culture of the teams that they would either protect it so much that the other people would leave, or they wouldn't even come into the circle, because they knew that the values, principles, or the way they acted, they wouldn't fit in. And that really stood out to me, because when it comes to business, it's so important to have a strong company culture. Like, Patrick talks at length about this, and he puts a lot of effort in the culture here. And that's why I can speak from experience, because it's so much more than just coming to work. It truly is investment in its people. I was just in New York like 2 weeks ago with Patrick, and that's because he's creating a culture of, hey, if you come through for the company, you go above and beyond, we'll go above and beyond for you. Went to 11 Madison, it's a 3 Michelin star restaurant, went to New York with him. And all of these things, like here on a Saturday, I'm looking around, there's half our team that's here on a Saturday that does not have to be here because we're 1099, we are independent contractors. But what does that show you? It's a reflection of the culture. And we always say we're high standards, we like competition. You know, there's 6 things that we really live by here within the team. Stay humble, be coachable, focus on alignment, show gratitude, move at the speed of instruction, and have a positive attitude. If you have all those things, you'll fit the culture. If you don't, you won't last in our culture here. And if you don't like to compete and you're not competitive, you also won't last here. And so when he was talking about culture warrior, I'm like, I can really relate to that, because I see people come and go, and you can kind of get a feel for who's gonna fit the culture and who's not gonna last. And it's not a bad thing. You want people who are aligned with your vision, your values, your principles for the company, the team, whatever organization that you're a part of or community that you're a part of, they have to fit the culture. And so when he was talking about that, from the language they used in the locker room to when they were out and about, the significance and the importance to have people who fought and defended and embodied the culture. And so that was number 2. Number 3, being a student of the game. I kind of knew Tom Brady's story, but not very intently or to that extent, because what I knew is like, okay, he was 99th pick or 199th pick, so he wasn't the first choice, and he ended up being the greatest quarterback, arguably, in football. And so when he was talking about really he opened up the interview by really telling his story and going in depth on how it came from who he was as just Tom Brady starting to play football to who we know him to be today, the Tom Brady. In between that, there was so many failures. It was like, didn't make this team, wasn't great here, wasn't naturally athletic, wasn't naturally super built, was a 3rd string here, was a backup here. Then I played on this team and they had me compete where I finally played quarterback, and then they had me where I was 2nd string, where I didn't play these games. It was like years of failure, setback, oh, opportunity, setback, failure, setback. And as I'm listening to this, I'm like, man, and he kept going. He kept going with enthusiasm, and he kept going because even though he wasn't the greatest, he had consistency, he was patient, he was disciplined, and he was a student of the game. Meaning, he was willing to improve, adjust, improve, outwork, adjust, improve, outwork, stay disciplined, consistency. And that brought him to be the guy that we know today, the GOAT, Tom Brady. And so when he was talking about that, I was like, man, it's so important, because many of us, we're not going to be the best right away, or we're not going to be where we want to be as far as successes. There's going to be more failures, but it builds you to who you are today. And it brought me to a conversation that I recently was engaging with Patrick. It was in New York. After we went to 11 Madison, we went to a cigar lounge, and I don't know about any of you, but it's always the meetings after the meetings, late night conversation, that paradigm shift kind of moment where my eyes were just like, wow. I wish I could relive this conversation. I think about it all the time. But we're at the cigar lounge, and best part, I'll share a funny story with you guys real quick. When we went to 11 Madison, I don't know if you guys ever been to the restaurant, but it was at one point #1 in the world, 3 Michelin star, and they were known for their duck liver. Beautiful restaurant in New York. It was owned by Will Guidara when it went #1. And we get there, and there's 30 of us. Patrick invested in the top leaders from his company, PHP, that he recently sold, to leaders within Valuetainment and Bet David Consulting. Again, showing a leader in investing in his people to develop other leaders, a form of leadership development. However, we get to this restaurant, incredible experience, beautiful tablecloth, the way they walked around, gave us drinks, walked us to the restroom, beautiful, beautiful details of everything. However, recently the restaurant has gone vegan. So the meals were like they were very tasty, but they were small and there was no meat. So when we left the restaurant and we go to the cigar lounge, all the guys order ribeyes, hot dogs, because they were still hungry. So just a little side story for you guys, because it's super funny. You go to a 3 Michelin star restaurant, it's not a light bill, just to leave and go eat more because you weren't filled. So, but we get to the cigar lounge and we're there with Patrick, a few from his leadership team, myself, Tom Ellsworth, and what he's talking about, we're sitting in the cigar lounge, he's in this corner, you know, it's more dark, the conversation is illuminating, it's a little like quieter because of everyone that's around. And he's talking about the conversation with Tom Brady. He's like, you know, having a level of insecurity is a good thing. When you think of Tom Brady, there was a level of insecurity because he wasn't the best. He wasn't the #1 pick, so he had to prove himself. And Patrick goes to say, he goes, you know, it's good to have a level of insecurity because it keeps you competing. It keeps you proving yourself and wanting to prove a point to the world. But it's not only about competition, because if it's only about competition, eventually you're gonna slow down. But whoever thinks the biggest and pursues a vision, and their vision is real, the biggest thinkers will always win. And I'm like sitting there, I'm like, oh my gosh, because you have to have a vision. Without vision, people perish. And so if you have a strong enough vision, but yet you're still where you're confident in the vision and what you're doing in the mission, however, you still have a level of insecurity and paranoia to keep outworking, to keep strategizing, to keep improving, that's ultimately how you win. Because the moment you think you arrived is the moment you're about to get passed up. And so when he was talking about that, I was like, man. And then it went on to share all the future things that are happening with Valuetainment and Bet David Consulting. I'm not the one that can actually release that. That's when Patrick announces those announcements. You guys are going to love it. When we talk about big thinkers, and you can ask yourself this, who's the biggest thinker that I know? Patrick Bet David is definitely a big thinker, and he is just getting started when it comes to Valuetainment and Bet David Consulting. There are so many announcements coming, so many things that are happening. You're gonna wanna be a part of the community, inner circle, things that we're doing with Patrick and other entrepreneurs from all across the globe. And if you're someone who is starting to put together your vision for your business plan and what's next, Q4 into 2024, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and you want clarity and strategy on how to achieve that, something to consider, December 15th, Patrick's gonna be hosting a business planning workshop where he talks a lot about dreaming, mission, vision. If you have interest, comment below BPW or DM me, and I'd be happy to learn more about you and your business and share more about that upcoming event. It's gonna be incredible with the launch of his new book, Choose Your Enemies Wisely. So that was number 3. Number 4, the ultimate competition is yourself. And he talked a lot about competition because during this interview, Patrick goes, okay, man, they're sitting there. Have to know. I think everyone here wants to know. I have to know. Did you go for the 7th ring because you wanted to beat Jordan or because you wanted to beat Belichick? Tom Brady's like, I love both of them. Like, I have respect for both of them. It was neither. And of course, Patrick's like trying a little bit more to finagle it. Come on, it's got to be one. Like, one had to influence you more than the other. Surprisingly enough, Tom Brady did not move forward with saying one or the other. You can watch the interview to see his reaction yourself. However, he was like, I wasn't really worried about competing with other guys on the team or to beat Belichick or to beat Jordan. What I was doing is I was competing with myself. I wanted to get better. I wanted to beat my prior best. And when I focused on myself, my technique, and continuously beating my prior best, it ultimately led me to being the GOAT. And so when I was thinking about that, when you try and play others' games or you focus on others when you're competing, you lose sight of your mission, of your goals, of your strengths, because you try and compete with other, like, you are an individual. You have skill sets. You have things that you're better at than others, and others have things that they're better at than you. But if you're constantly comparing yourself to others, you're trying to play their game. You're not focusing on your strengths where you can improve because you're too distracted by others. And so this really hit home to me because I'm super competitive and I like to win. I don't like to lose more than I like to win. But sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm looking at what other people are doing and keeping track, but that is a distraction from my focus. And so when he was talking about that, I was like, focus more on me, because I can control me. I can control my attitude. I can control my effort. I can control what I do, my activity, my improvement, my strategy, not others. So ultimately, whoever's the best, their main focus is themselves and how they can improve. And once they're a leader, how they can improve others. And so, man, his reaction to that, and I definitely implore all of you to go check it out. The interview, it's really insightful, is that your only competition is yourself. And I'll just throw in a quote that I always love from Jordan Peterson. He always says, don't compare yourself to who someone else is today. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. And so that was number 4, which leads me to my 5th point. Who is in your inner circle? There was a portion of the interview where Tom Brady was like, you know what, if you weren't on my team, we weren't really friends. Like, we have a mission, we have a vision, we have goals that we're striving for as a team. I don't really have time, nor do I really care to hang out with people outside my team. And it's like, that makes so much sense, because when you have big dreams, when you have a big mission, when you have a vision, it's really important who's in your inner circle. Are they aligned with your vision? Are they going to the same place you're going, because then you can help each other get there? Or are they a distraction? Who's in your head? Who's in your ear? Who's in your inner circle? I mean, I know myself. I've had the same group of friends, like girlfriends. There's a small group of us since 4th, 5th, 6th grade, forever. And I know no matter if I'm doing amazing or doing horribly, they're gonna be there for me, because they genuinely care for me, because they know me before I am who I am today or who I'm going to be in the future. So I know I can trust them as part of my inner circle. And so when it comes to business, and when it comes to sports, when it comes to you evolving and coming up, you have to be really cautious of who's in your inner circle, because people may give you ideas or influence your mindset, not even on purpose in a negative manner. But when you have a mission and a vision, it's really important to protect your mindset. So when you're protective of your inner circle, and for Tom Brady, what he was saying, people on his team, because they have shared vision, shared values, and a shared goal, you don't have time for other people. That doesn't mean you're rude to other people. You don't have any other friends outside of your organization or your team, but you have to be really cautious of who's in your inner circle, because they have the most influence over you. And so I know I want people that are around me, they're improving, they're competing, they hold me accountable, I hold them accountable, there's a high level of standards, they're big thinkers. And what I want my inner circle to be, and what I told Patrick, I was like, whatever I have to do to keep a seat at the table and to actually move up on the table for when decisions are being made within Bet David Consulting and Valuetainment, I want to earn my right to sit at that table, and I want to be a part of your inner circle. What do I have to do in order to be that person? Because if there's one thing that I want, and one thing that really drives me, it's access and proximity to PBD. Because I know, like I mentioned, who's the biggest thinker that you know? I know good things that are gonna happen, and his vision is so big. All that I want to achieve in my life is possible within what Valuetainment and Bet David Consulting is doing today, but also in the future, because we're just getting started. And so who's in your inner circle? That's a question for you to ask yourself. Who's in your inner circle? Who's in your ear? Are they a net negative to your life, or are they a net positive to your life? Do they stretch you? Do they make you want to improve? Do they hold you accountable? Do they think big? Do they want what's best for you? Who is in your inner circle? It's so important because it's really who's in your ear and who is affecting your mindset. And so when it comes to my interaction with Tom Brady, I actually did get the opportunity to meet him as well. He's a lot taller than I thought. He was a lot taller and kind of just super nice, super genuine. He had like an aura around him. You didn't feel uncomfortable. The way he had conversations, all of it was super insightful. I enjoyed it a lot. The interview was amazing. Definitely recommend it. The event itself, incredible. So much knowledge, so much community when it comes to the Vault Conference. 3,000 entrepreneurs from like 60 different countries running large organizations. When we talk about inner circle, there's no better inner circle, in my opinion, and I might be a little bit biased, than the Valuetainment community here. And so those are my 5 tips from meeting Tom Brady. Was humble leadership, culture warrior, student of the game, competition, and your inner circle. And so if you have interest in watching the interview, go to YouTube. And then a few things that I mentioned throughout this live and something to consider. If you're an entrepreneur, CEO, founder who's looking to grow and scale their businesses, work on their culture, develop as a leader, that's what we do here at Bet David Consulting with Patrick Bet David, Tom Ellsworth, and entrepreneurs from across the globe. So comment below or book a call, DM me. Would love to learn more about you and your business. And stay tuned for my next live. And if you have any ideas or things you'd like me to speak on, comment below or let me know, because I'd be interested to hear what you guys have to say about it. So appreciate you joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time.